Welcome to our sixth and final Organizing 101 series interview. I'm Reverend Cynthia Gerald. I'm the Senior Advisor for Funding Strategies and External Affairs for the Gamaliel Network. And I am pleased to be joined today by Anna Garcia-Ashley, who is our Executive Director. Welcome, Anna, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for making me part of this important Gamaliel series.
Absolutely. And we saved you for last because we felt like the best is what we wanted to wrap things up with. So I'm just going to invite you. We've had a series of questions that we've asked folks who have been part of this interview series. And so I want to start out by asking you to share with the folks who've joined us through a variety of digital platforms a little bit about your role or the roles you've actually had in this network over the years, and a little bit about your experience in the network.
Well, thank you. I was introduced to the network when I was a organizer in Denver, Colorado. So I met several of the Gamaliel organizers who really, I think that was my first these people are pretty powerful, and it inspired me to find out more while I was in Denver. And then of course, my first introduction was coming into a organizers retreat that I was invited to in Chicago, and that was the first opportunity that I had to meet Mary Gonzalez, and I was in after she did a one-to-one with me, and after my conversation with her, I just felt like this is where I needed to be. This is where I was going to grow. And I was ready to pack up two babies, and my husband supported me to make the big move from Denver, Colorado to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yes.
Well, and that sounds like that was probably a huge change for you, and quite a distance to go with your family. So I know from years of talking with you that you believe that this work of community organizing is really, really important. But could you say a bit more to folks about why you think it's important, perhaps how your journey has helped you to understand that importance? And I think folks who are listening would be particularly interested in the fact that you are the first woman of color immigrant to lead a national faith-based organizing network. So we know that your immigrant journey has also been important to this work.
Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot, Reverend Gerald. I think that from the time that I left, from the point where I left the Dominican Republic as a child and migrated to New York City, to the South Bronx, especially not to New York City, to the South Bronx, and sitting here today with you as the ED of Gamaliel, we are talking about a very long journey. But if I have to share with you the point of where I became totally convinced that this was the motto, that this was the ministry, that was so important for to create the world that I wanted to live in. I think the first point was really with my grandmother, and the fact that she was so Catholic, culturally Catholic, and believed that the way to live that was out in the community. And it was really challenging the injustices in a very small town. So I had that model from the time that I can remember. But then even coming to the South Bronx, in a time where there was so much gang activity, there was so much drugs, there was and seeing how my Catholic church was trying to impact that, to work in the community, to really have a place where people like me and immigrants like me, excuse me, could really, educate themselves and make something of themselves and impact the world. So I think that also drew me into this social justice Catholic world. But I think the decision for me, the adult strategic decision to follow this path really happened when I graduated from college at the University of Colorado at Denver, and decided to go to I-Live School of Theology. And I think that that's when, my faith, my politic, and who I wanted to be in the world all came together. And I made an intentional decision at that point that I wanted to be a real organizer. But that could go many ways, because there are so many models of organizing. So my first attempt was to do kind of like, I met Dolores Huerta. And I thought, farm workers, so I ended up in Nicaragua, trying with Witness of Peace, looking at kind of like that rural global kind of organizing, and realized that that's not what I was being called to do. So when I came back to the United States, I really decided that I needed to bring my faith into this work, into this ministry, and that's what's going to be what was going to sustain me, because I decided this is what I'm going to do. So I have made the transition from just issues and Hellraiser, kind of revolutionary, to actually saying, okay, how do you learn to be a real organizer? And this is what I found in Gamaliel, was all the teaching and the mentoring of making me into a faith-based organizer and trainer. So, I mean, I'm talking about from 79 to now 2021. So there's a lot of people who impacted my life in that journey.
Anna, it's really interesting, you talking about that sort of that moment or series of moments with when you were at ILIF that really sort of shifted your way of thinking. I'm actually sitting here thinking you are the 7th senior organizer in this network that I have interviewed during this series. And 5 of you have actually said that it was your faith journey, and in particular your own experience in ministry, that began to shift you this direction. I find that I don't know what's behind that, but I find that pretty compelling. And so I would ask you if there are more learnings that you would draw from that, and if not, if there are just other learnings that you want to make sure you lift up, things you have learned through this work that are really, really important for the rest of us to hear.
I mean, there's a lot of learnings, especially when I started as a traditional community organizer who was door knocking, right, to build an organization in Southwest Denver, in Westwood, and to see the disinvestment, and to see how people were just struggling so much, especially people who are in public housing and elderly. And so I felt that it wasn't just about getting, drainage so that their houses would not flood. There was something deeper about the system. There was something deeper about who was making decisions. There was something deeper about just who we needed to be in the world, and why this was happening. So I think that for me, it was a lot of reading. I remember, just Rigoberta Menchú and Wilma Mankiller, and reading about the journeys of these powerful women, right? And then just saying, this is not enough to build an organization. It's not enough to fight individual issues. We have to be able to connect. There has to be a web, and we have to be able to influence many, many spaces. And I think that that's how I saw the role of the bishops. I just, at that point, I felt like they were not doing enough. We were celebrating the fact that we had some high profile religious leaders who had given their lives for others. But that wasn't enough. I think that for me, it's not just, Bishop Romero dying, or Gandhi dying, or Martin Luther King dying. It's like, what does it mean for the church? What does it mean for people who really have the values and who can see the injustices? And so I think that that was a huge shift in terms of coming to Gamaliel and saying, I can't just be happy and feel like I'm really living out my values and my faith and that I'm making an impact by just making Milwaukee and the city congregations that Life for Hope the stronger Gamaliel affiliate. That wasn't enough. And I think that the shift for me was when Gamaliel started the projects in South Africa. And when I landed in Cape Town, I think I was changed when I came back, and I felt like, what we really need is a statewide organization in Wisconsin, because what I saw in Cape Town and in Port Elizabeth and in Durban was issues that could not be solved just by having a strong local organization. So I remember it's a very long flight from I came from Durban. We were in Cape Town, went to Port Elizabeth by driving, and then we flew to Cape Town and then flew back to the United States through, I think it was that time we were flying through Istanbul. I think that was the cheapest ticket. And so it's a lot of time to think and a lot of time to reflect. And I can tell you that I came back to Milwaukee and nothing can stop me from building wisdom. Nothing. I mean, I just saw it. I can feel it. I can see it. It was just something that was real in my heart. So I do think that when I talk about organizing, it's really it's an organism that just changes you and everybody around you on a daily basis. And you had to have the courage, you had to have the community for that organism to change you and for you to be able to impact it as it changes. But I think many organizers and organizations think that they have arrived. That's not how you arrive somewhere. That there's a destination. And I don't believe that. I believe that it's just a living, just like I'm a living, changing human being, so is the work we're doing. And so that's where the courage comes. That there's somebody going to come and bring new ideas. A leader's going to bring new ideas and also new challenges. And you constantly had to be open every moment of your life for that. And that's why I think that when there was all that pushback about Obama and being an organizer and Saul Alinsky, and I thought that was really not important, because those are things that happen at a time, and we're moving forward in Gamaliel. We're moving forward in organizing. We are no longer what they used to be, because this is an organism that grows every day.
Yeah, that's really powerful, Anna. I have to say that for me, you're a very inspirational person, but not just that. I think you drive me to think that way as well. I've watched you actually move this network into really living out our values around racial equity. And that was always there, but you saw windows to actually make that happen. And this whole state structure thing that we're pushing to build across the network, I think that's been you who's actually moved that. So thank you for actually having a vision of us continuing to grow and evolve over time, and to bring new folks in to be part of that. And speaking of new folks, I think some of your words have already been advice to people coming into this this pathway, this profession of community organizing. But I want to remind folks who are watching us that we've got various folks, right, who are watching this particular interview. Some of these folks who are watching right now are friends of ours or people who are actually engaged in the work alongside of all of us. Some of these people are curious about what we do and might be willing to invest. And then there's a whole set of people who have actually given some thought. They've heard about community organizing. They've given some thought to it as a profession, a career path moving forward. Is there additional advice besides, you haven't just arrived, right? You keep growing. Is there additional advice that you would give to those folks?
That's a very good question, because I've been talking to all the, what we are calling pandemic organizers, because they had never experienced in-person organizing like we all started, like you and I and most of us started. And when I talk to them, I sense a disconnect between what they believe organizing to be and what that can bring for their lives. And I think that people who are new and who have used this mean of communication to enter into this profession, to enter into the space, have not had the blessing of sitting in a sitting in the porch of an 80-year-old lady who introduces you to Kringles and coffee, and who tells you this beautiful story about her life in Poland, and points out to different things in her porch and things in her house that defines her, and that have, giving her joy through this difficult journey of leaving her family, of leaving her home, sometimes just learning a different language, or and being in a different culture. And so I feel like they haven't quite had that joy and internalized what a blessing it is to be in relationship with people, and in a way that you would never forget them, ever. They will always stay in your hearts and minds. And so I think that, I don't know how that transition is going to take place, how Zoom and Facebook Live organizer move into the richness of real communities, a real interaction with people. And so they actually think that they are making investment on somebody else. And I think what I have learned in the last almost 40 years of being in this ministry, is that a lot of people are just making investment in you. And so that would make it for what we call a lifer. Like, you and I were lifer. I'm a lifer. I've been organizing since I got out of college, and I organized before that. And this is what I'm going to do, and hopefully get better at, in the richness that comes from being part of bad public meetings, good public meetings, bad actions and good actions, civil disobedience that the weather really beats you down, right? It's not the police and the arrest. It's the fact that you had to sit in a very hot pavement in front of the White House for a very long time, and you have not anticipated that, right? Or you're sitting and blocking a street with children, and the sky decide to open up. Really decide to open up, and then you find out that you need the people around you just to hold on to you, so the water won't take you away. That's just real, and those are experiences that the new organizers in the last year and a half, they haven't had. And so I hope that when this pandemic allow us to get back into spaces with each other, that they really courageously make the opportunities to hear the stories, to look into people's eyes, to look at their faces, and to see that when they're telling their stories, it's like their whole body is changing. And people tell the story, they get stronger. And you can see people getting stronger right in front of you, and you with them. So I really feel like this is what we need to do to create lifers. So, because I already turned 63, so I can continue to be supportive, but I'm not going to be in the front row and for forever. So we need these new organizers to be exposed to the blessing of building relationships across race and class and geography. And I know we used to send our organizers with the Organizers Forum all over the world to expose them to other settings. And unfortunately, that, of course, is not happening. So our organizers, we need to create opportunities for them to be in diverse communities, to expose to different models. Because I think the model in South Africa could not be what I did in Milwaukee, cannot be what I did in Racine, but it actually led me to a passion to build wisdom. So when you get exposed to different things, I think you bring back that richness into the work.
That's really beautiful, Anna. This whole idea of the richness of real community. And that's what we're about. And we've been around 35 years doing this, right? And this is our anniversary year, the kickoff of our anniversary year, and we've got many more in front of us. Thank you, Anna, so much for sharing pieces of your story and your journey in this work. Just a reminder to folks who are watching us, these are available. Will continue to be available on our website. So if you're viewing this now and you want to go back and look at it again, you can find it on our website. And you'll find more information about community organizing in the 101 series page on our website. Thank you very much, especially those of you who have watched all 7 segments of this. We're so pleased that you've been with us. And Anna, thank you again. This was really lovely. Thank you.
Reverend Gerald, and the last word of my grandmother, this is what it means to be a Catholic.
I love it. I love it. All right. Thank you.